See, like the rest of the world, ASEAN, a region of 660 million people, and today our GDP is at about USD 3.7 trillion. We are like fifth largest collective economy in the world, and we are going to be the fourth largest by 2030. Clearly, like the rest of the world, we need to find a much more sustainable solution to our energy demand in ASEAN. I think we have, however, quite a different challenge versus most of the developed world. I'm talking about demand. Our demand in ASEAN, we are going to be expected to grow more than 3x of existing capacity by 2050. So while renewables adoption commitment is there, we are moving ahead. But we also know that with the current technologies, the level of deployment today, the level of intensity efficiency that renewable give us, that's not going to be sufficient for us to be able to generate the 3x of energy demand that ASEAN needs. Therefore, undeniably, I believe natural gas, oil, and coal, fossils are basically going to dominate our region's energy supply, at least from now till 2030, 2040. But of course, at the same time, we are acknowledging there's great importance for the need to accelerate energy transition. And I think this is where we are progressing to increase the deployment of renewables in the energy mix and in power capacity, again, which is translated into our aspirational renewable targets. Let me share some good news. For the power sector in ASEAN, we have achieved a remarkable 33.6% share of renewables in all of the new installed power capacity. And this was a number in 2021. This is really already, we are quite close to achieving our 2025 target, regional target of 35%. And despite this healthy development in the region for renewables, unfortunately, the volume of new energy coming on install in ASEAN is so large that today renewables is still hovering around 14 to 15%. We are way below our target that we have set for 2025. Now, this pressure for additional new capacity in recent years really is the one that's actually causing some of that, what I call distortions of the volume of renewable versus other fossil energy mix. And I think this is where understanding this gap in our energy mix ambition, we definitely are moving ahead to strengthen our efforts to achieve our targets. And we want to work harder in coming together to develop a version 1 of the ASEAN long-term renewable roadmap. And for this roadmap, we intend to put forth much more stronger, more assertive, longer-term strategies. And this definitely, with it, will have the need for us to increase the deployment of renewables, including the diversification of renewable sources, including new technologies in renewable areas that hopefully are much more competitively priced. And we are hoping to tap on technologies such as solar PV and onshore wind, but we want to go beyond that. We want to look at emerging technologies, for example, in offshore wind, in geothermal, in ocean technology, even in green hydrogen. And of course, storage. We need to kind of move together to look at building some of our depth analysis into some of these new opportunities so that the region can move ahead to strengthen our commitment towards renewables. Well, this year, the ASEAN energy ministers, they have adopted the joint declaration on sustainable energy security through interconnectivity. This is a very important declaration that concretizes the collective commitment of all of the ASEAN member states to come together to enhance our energy interconnectivity through the expansion of the ASEAN power grid, as well as the ASEAN Trans-ASEAN Gas Pipeline Initiative. Now, through this joint declaration, the ASEAN member states have all agreed to pursue additional regional targets for interconnection through the ASEAN power grid and the Trans-ASEAN Gas Pipeline, including LNG infrastructure. And all of these are plans which are in line from now till 2045, which is clearly in the time frame where we are also visioning the needs for the ASEAN community post-2025 vision. Now, let me also tell you that further, the countries of Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines, the BIMP countries, they have released their joint statement for BIMP Power Integration Project to initiate a study that will cover the cross-border power trade among the BIMP countries. This is incredible. Now, this is in addition to the existing significant project that involves Lao PDR, Thailand, Malaysia, and of course the Singapore Power Integration Project, the LTMS PIP. The LTMS PIP, we all know, has been the pathfinder initiative in the region that is realizing our ability to achieve the broader APG vision, commemorating the first year. This is really after the June of 2022, this is the first year of its commemoration. And on the sideline of the 41st ASEAN Energy Ministers meeting that recently took place, the LTMS ministerial meeting, again, they came together to adopt the fourth joint statement of the LTMS PIP. Again, big progress to explore the potential and the opportunities in enhancing the LTMS PIP towards further advancement in multi-directional power trade. And the good news is we are in fact today looking at including the collaboration on cross-border electricity trading taking place between Cambodia and Singapore, and of course using the subsea cables in terms of transfer of energy. So incredible amount of progress that was done this year. Perhaps the simplest way to put it, for ASEAN, I think we have to choose our own path towards the net zero world. We do not in ASEAN use the definition of net zero because the fact is not all of our ASEAN members are ready for net zero. What we all are ready and committed to instead today is on carbon neutrality. And this is where even for the energy sector, we actually see that while there's a huge need for rising energy demand, we also feel that this is a time where transition is a must because it's a great opportunity for us to be able to harness new generation of growth for our people and our economies. But at the same time, when we want to do it, we do it the ASEAN way, that is inclusive and a lot more reflective or practical way forward. This is where I feel our transition towards carbon neutrality, it's a lot more accurate and a lot more relevant than focusing on net zero. And the carbon neutral plan, as I mentioned before, the ASEAN Carbon Neutral Plan, it is an aspirational target for ASEAN to be taken the best practical steps forward, enabling the ability for the region to move in energy transition, but at the same time, looking out for energy security, resilience, as well as affordability. And this has been reflected actually in the kind of efforts that we have put in coming out with the plan for the energy sector. In that carbon neutrality plan, we have also started looking at things that are much more relevant in continue providing the intensity of energy demand, but at the same time, able to allow us to move towards a decarbonized world. I think this is where the focus is not just on renewables, but at the same time, alongside renewables, we are really looking at things like carbon capture, reutilization, and storage as being a key area of focus for the region. Moreover, we are looking at practical things of providing greater amount of efficiency to our grid, but at the same time working towards strengthening our national grid connectivity between the 10 countries. Finally, we are also taking our decarbonization interests towards looking at practical things where we have great wealth. For example, our carbon sink. We are home to 36% of the carbon sink in the world. How do we make use of the carbon sink in order to offset our carbon footprints? And finally, we are also looking at another good wealth that we have in the region, which is extensive amount of what I call agriculture waste that can be used for transformation into sustainable fuels. So we are looking decarbonization in a way that generates opportunities for us, but at the same time, help us to achieve low carbon footprint for our energy sector, but also a whole movement towards something that we can afford financially, because at the end of the day, today we are all competing at a global level, and we need to make sure that we are able to attract global capital efficiently and be able to bring value to the table that is relevant to the region.